6 reasons why MCU Spider-Man 4 should be Spider-Man and Daredevil versus Kingpin and Scorpion. Alright, so I'm currently going through a major rebranding of my YouTube channel, which I'll make in another video, but I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, so I'm just going to go straight to the point. Reason number 1. It makes sense narratively after the conclusion of Spider-Man No Way Home. Let's look at this first and foremost from a storytelling perspective. Peter Parker in the MCU is getting a fresh start of being entirely on his own as a superhero in New York City since 2016, if that's when Captain America's Civil War takes place. We didn't even get that much context of how he operated as that friendly neighborhood vigilante, other than his homemade onesie suit and that YouTube video that Tony Stark pulled up of him saving people from a bus crash in Captain America 3. How Stark found out about him is a whole nother question, but it's not important here. By the end of No Way Home, he made his own suit, he's back to making his own web shooters, and he's operating as a sole vigilante in New York City. At least that's what it looks like. So with a Peter Parker who is now an adult, but still a very young adult at that, he's gonna get the full swing, no pun intended, of the great responsibility that comes with great power. Reason number 2. Spider-Man teaming up with Daredevil will make a lot of money. So, referring back to reason number 1, who else operates as a sole vigilante in New York City? Matt Murdock, who Peter himself was acquainted with in No Way Home for acquitting him of the murder of Mysterio. But our very own Daredevil doesn't know that because he's part of the Earth's population that completely forgot who Peter Parker is thanks to Doctor Strange's second spell cast at the end of No Way Home. But he does know that there is another vigilante in New York, Spider-Man. I think this would be the perfect opportunity for them to take inspiration from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon and have these two heroes be adversaries at first and then realize that they are on the same side. It's something that the DCEU should have done too, to a much larger extent, and I will link a video in the description below talking about that. It's a video done by Nerdstalgic. So anyway, Matt may need to get reacquainted with Peter, but Peter never knew Matt was also a superhero. All he knew was that Matt's a really good lawyer. So the dramatic irony of them not knowing each other's double lives would be a fun, entertaining plot point to incorporate. It's a comical irony at that. And we all know how popular Netflix's Daredevil series was, right? It was one of Netflix's biggest hits for a while back in the day. Way before Squid Game, before Stranger Things, etc. Even Tom Holland himself has said that he loves the show. I'll put a few links in the description if I'm not showing it to you now in the video. And I quote, "Working with Charlie was incredibly exciting. I was a big fan of the Daredevil series and I think he's a fantastic actor." Another quote, "I loved Daredevil. I really enjoyed it. I thought Charlie Cox was excellent. I thought Vincent D'Onofrio did a fantastic job as Wilson Fisk. It was really cool to see a darker side to a Marvel character. That fight scene in the hallway was spectacular. I know some of the stunt guys that built that sequence. I thought it was a great show." I'll link the rest of this in the description. I also remember how back in the day, naysayers were saying that Daredevil just isn't canon to the MCU, even though it was the whole time. But with the advent of Echo and Marvel Spotlight, I'm glad that that, quite frankly, ridiculous argument has finally been put to rest. At least I hope it's been put to rest. There was arguably just as much hype back in 2021 to Matt Murdock's appearance in No Way Home as there was to the appearance of the Legacy Spider-Man. The character was also a huge draw because of how he was getting teased as appearing in She-Hulk in 2022. That was like the highlighted part of the trailer for She-Hulk. And Sony knows this. They used a frame from Matt Murdock's cameo appearance as the thumbnail of the first 10 minutes of No Way Home on YouTube. which as of today has over 3 million views. All this is to say, if Spider-Man 4 included Daredevil in a major role, there would certainly be an audience for it. It's something that's never been done before. I think hardcore fans and even casual fans alike would love to see this live action time up, and I personally have been waiting for it for almost 10 years. And guess what? I'm not the only one. Daredevil himself has also waited a decade for the opportunity to fight alongside the Webhead.
I know Daredevil and Spider-Man are good buddies too, right? They lived together for a while.
Right.
So could it happen that we see Spider-Man and Daredevil fighting alongside?
I mean, that would be very cool as well. I mean, there's a really great issue where Matt Murdock has to represent Daredevil in court. And so Matt Murdock, the lawyer, has to represent Daredevil himself in court in one of the issues. And of course, how can they both be in court at the same time? And so what happens is Peter Parker puts on Matt Murdock's Daredevil suit, and so he can sit as Daredevil in the dock. I just remember that issue and thinking it was really cool. I don't know if we'll get to that, but that'd be cool.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you so much.
It was great to talk.
As a side note, Matt Murdock did have a cameo in Spider-Verse 1, Into the Spider-Verse, so here's to hoping he may be involved in Spider-Verse 3, Beyond the Spider-Verse. The Spot, who was the villain of Spider-Verse 2 Across the Spider-Verse, is also a villain of Daredevil's, just like Kingpin, and since the movie is called Beyond the Spider-Verse, there could be something there. Reason number 3. It is time to take street-level Thanos to the big screen. That's right, you heard me correctly. In Marvel's own words, the Kingpin is the street-level Mad Titan. Now ain't that an enticing thought? And speaking of Thanos, imagine how thought-provoking a conversation could have been between Wilson Fisk and Thanos. And just like our very own Daredevil, Kingpin himself, Vincent D'Onofrio, has been wanting to be on screen with the MCU Spider-Man since his debut in Daredevil Season 1 way back in 2015, before the casting of the MCU Spider-Man was even announced.
There's so much with Marvel where Spider-Man is now going to be in Marvel films and your Daredevil is part of Marvel. Is it possible that you'll eventually do a Spider-Man thing?
I have no idea. I mean, I would love to.
Would that be cool?
That'd be super cool, yeah. Yeah. To be able to kick Spider-Man's butt would be awesome.
It has happened too, so.
Yeah, but we just don't know about those things. Those are all the Marvel secrets that they never tell us until they need us. So.
Right. What's your?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No. I would just to end that question with, I would do it. I'd do it in a second.
Awesome.
Kingpin is just as much of a villain of Spider-Man's as he is Daredevil's, as we discussed previously with Spot. And here is a neat fan art of him done by the Butcher Billy, carrying a suitcase and a newspaper with the word multiverse written on it, in homage to the film Uncle Buck starring the late John Candy. Back in 2021, when the rumors were about Kingpin showing up in Hawkeye, there was also the rumor that D'Onofrio signed a gigantic contract with Disney. I can't locate the tweet right now, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would link that in the description as well. The late Michael Clark Duncan previously portrayed Kingpin in the first Daredevil movie, and while I liked his portrayal, it has been 20 years since we got a live action portrayal of Kingpin again on the big screen. Duncan did voice Kingpin in the 2003 Spider-Man animated series, and it makes me wonder if Fox and Sony had discussions about a crossover back in the day. But if Kingpin would be the main villain of Spider-Man 4, he shouldn't be a one-and-done villain. The cancelled Netflix version of the Daredevil show had a season 4 and 5 planned, and the 5th season was supposed to feature a final showdown between him and Daredevil. I'll talk more about that later. Reason number 4. Michael Mando is acting prowess waiting to happen. Now, I have to start this point off by saying that I'm aware it may not be as popular of a fan request than a Spider-Man partnering up with Daredevil fighting Kingpin, but it is still a popular request nonetheless. Michael Mando was phenomenal in Better Call Saul, and no doubt would give a memorable portrayal as the Scorpion, or even a villainous Venom down the line. We've yet to see what that drop of the symbiote at the end of No Way Home and the possible retcon in Venom 3 will lead to, but Mac Gargan was one of Spider-Man's enemies that became Venom. I was hoping he would have been in No Way Home as well as a sixth villain, the one villain who is from the main universe who could lead the other villains since he's familiar with that Spider-Man, got to know who he is, wanted to know who he was particularly to get vengeance, and he was the one who fought this particular Spider-Man before, only without superpowers. But we have not seen him since the mid-credit scene in Homecoming. Bringing Mando back also gives the producers a chance to show the audience what a recontextualized scene regarding Spider-Man in the past post-Doctor Strange spell is. Given how that scene is literally about Spider-Man's secret identity, with Toomes dishonestly denying knowledge of it. He hasn't even been mentioned in this series or the MCU at all, as far as I can tell. Is this just gonna remain a loose end of the franchise and we're never gonna see the character again? I personally think Scorpion should be a secondary villain working for Fisk. The latter can be hinted or just revealed that he's working on gathering a team of villains to take on Spider-Man. That would be comic accurate too, since Kingpin is the ringleader of the Sinister Six in the comics, if I recall correctly. Reason number 5. The actors are getting older and older. So there have been a lot of rumors about MCU Spider-Man 4. But the more recent ones, after the Kang to Doctor Doom pivot that was revealed right around Deadpool 3 this year, are about the movie basically being another No Way Home, meaning another live-action Spider-Verse movie. So if we were to get this dream team, meaning Spider-Man and Daredevil, it wouldn't even happen for another half-decade or even a full decade from now if those recent rumors are true. Charlie Cox will be in his mid-40s by then, and definitely still young, but D'Onofrio will be close to 70, and that would make this the latter's first altercation with Spider-Man. But as I explained in point number 1, it just doesn't make sense narrative-wise to have another high-stakes Spider-Man movie after we got what was described as the endgame of Spider-Man movies. And I'm not even opposed to having another multiverse movie, but I will get to that a little later. Now, as I said, I don't want Kingpin to be a one-and-done villain. Of course, there is also the question of Tom Holland, who will be already in his 30s if we don't get this dream team as the next movie. Obviously, like Charlie Cox, that's still very young, but at that point in time in Tom's career, he may not want to keep playing the character of Spider-Man, which may also work out for the narrative, which I will get into now. Reason number 6. We can still have another live-action Spider-Verse, but later. I've alluded to this in previous points, but it's not that I would mind another No Way Home or a No Way Home 2.0 or something like that, but just not as the direct sequel to it. Spider-Man 4 is presumably going to be the start of a new trilogy, right? I mentioned Spider-Verse 1 earlier when I said Matt Murdock cameoed in it. Well, Spider-Verse 2 is also relevant to this conversation because that was the first time in 6 years that we got to see the MCU Prowler, even if it wasn't an MCU movie. And it was in a movie that starred Miles Morales himself as the protagonist. As Tom Holland and subsequently his character Peter Parker continues to age, and with the advent of showing the Prowler in a cameo, I feel like there is an opportunity here to introduce a Miles somewhere out there in Cinematic 616 Brooklyn. Maybe Sony and Disney are planning to include a very young Miles in Spider-Man 4 anyway, but regardless of that, if they go the route of this video, I think having Miles show up in this movie would be a good setup. Maybe have the mid-credit scene of Miles getting bit by the radioactive spider, and then Spider-Man 5 could be a protege-mentor relationship between Peter and Miles, not unlike Spider-Verse 1, Into the Spider-Verse. Maybe that could be the film where Peter has the symbiote, and part of Miles' relationship with him is helping Spider-Man get back to his senses and splitting with the symbiote. I didn't play Spider-Man 2 for PS5, so I don't know if the video game tackled the symbiote storyline in that same way. Maybe it's a coincidence that this YouTube video has 6 points, because Spider-Man 6 could be the Sinister Six movie that Sony has always wanted. So they could include the MCU Prowler in the team, or not, save him for the future Spider-Man series, the future trilogy, if there's going to be a trilogy where Miles takes over as the protagonist. That could either entail 616 Peter retiring and passing the baton to Miles, or just going part-time as Spider-Man and full-time as a science teacher, which I think is comic book accurate, while Miles goes full-time as Spider-Man. But if the suits really want to take a risk, they could go ahead and have one of the villains kill 616 Peter. There was a rumor of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man showing up in Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, with Scarlet Witch killing him. I can't find a source for that rumor right now, but I consider it to be 50% true, since we did get John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic showing up, and he was the one who ends up getting killed, along with other Illuminati, including legacy actor Patrick Stewart returning as alternate universe Charles Xavier. There were fan posters back in the day of No Way Home, also including Daredevil in costume, back when Charlie Cox's appearance was still a rumor, so the full extent of his role at that time was unknown. So as a conclusion to this second trilogy, Spider-Man 6 could be a massive team-up of the Tom Holland Spider-Man, the Miles Morales Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, Daredevil, and maybe even the Insomniac Spider-Man. His suit was in Spider-Verse 1, and he appeared in 2 separate scenes as a real character in Spider-Verse 2. That would be epic. In fact, you can also try to make the argument that Black Cat could be a part-time team member here with the Spider-Men, if you will. You can have Black Cat be a love interest throughout the trilogy while still keeping MJ around, because No Way Home did hint that she has an inkling of a feeling of somehow knowing Peter Parker. And we have to remember that only her memory of Peter Parker is what was wiped out. So all of her memories could still involve something about being in love with Spider-Man while still not knowing his identity. So the trilogy could build up to them eventually getting back together while still having Black Cat as a love interest, which eventually in some way, shape, or form doesn't work out. But we need to build up to all of this first from a grounded, street-level Spider-Man 4 film. Then we can have a bigger spectacle in Spider-Man 5, and then a very high-stakes, full-on, multiverse, live-action Spider-Verse, Avengers-level threat, to quote Mysterio, for Spider-Man 6, Spider Society versus Sinister Six. That would be epic, and it would be epic done right. Kingpin can be the final threat and the secret 7th villain. And maybe Drew Goddard and the OG Netflix Daredevil team can incorporate elements of their original Season 5 ending into it too. As I alluded to earlier, before getting cancelled, the Netflix show's crescendo was supposed to be a final showdown between Matt Murdock and Fisk. I know this is about to veer into some fanfiction, but let's say the Sinister Six is or are defeated with Daredevil's assistance. But since he also has a personal grudge with Kingpin, as Kingpin tries to manage an escape, Daredevil corners him similarly to how Kingpin's exit was blocked by Daredevil at the end of Season 3. Then the final showdown ensues. After 3 seasons of the Netflix show and however many seasons of Born Again, this is the crescendo we have all waited for, and while Kingpin gains the upper hand, MCU Spider-Man appears for one final collaborative effort with his best superhero friend. We can just say that at that point during this hypothetical plot of Spider-Man 6 that the alternate universe Spider-Man already went back home to their dimensions or universes. Or we could just say that the other Spider-Man would have stuck around but have their own businesses in their own respective universes. Cue a trilogy with Miles Morales as the main character. for Spider-Man 7 in the MCU. Alright, so in conclusion, reason number 1, if we go with an organic story, everything just makes sense for Spider-Man 4 to be a grounded street-level movie. Since the contract between Sony and Disney still dictates that MCU characters can show up in the Spider-Man movies, this time it should be Daredevil since we got the tease of catching a brick by the really good lawyer. It just makes sense narratively after the conclusion of No Way Home. Reason number 2, Spider-Man plus Daredevil is definitely a high box office potential movie. It's never been done before, and Sony has to be somewhat aware of the character's popularity since a still image of him was used as the thumbnail of the first 10 minutes of No Way Home on YouTube. His face was also included on the re-release poster of No Way Home. So, Spider-Man teaming up with Daredevil will make a lot of money. Reason number 3, Marvel themselves have stated that Wilson Fisk is going to be the street-level Thanos. Practically all of the actors involved have been wanting this on-screen team-up and battle for a decade ever since Spider-Man was first announced to join the MCU back on February 9th, 2015. It's time to take street-level Thanos, meaning Kingpin, to the big screen. Reason number 4, Michael Mando as the Scorpion is just wasted talent. Everyone who has seen Better Call Saul knows the potential we can see him in as Scorpion or Venom in the MCU. He can be a secondary villain because Kingpin should not be a one-and-done villain. He should stick around for this film, the Daredevil series, and for the concluding chapter of the new Spider-Man trilogy. Michael Mando, who previously portrayed Mac Gargan, who becomes Scorpion and later a villainous Venom in the comics, is acting prowess waiting to happen. Reason number 5, if the latest rumors are true and Sony and Disney are pivoting to Spider-Man 4 just being another live-action Spider-Verse, then that means we'll either never get to see the film premise of this YouTube video, which is Daredevil and Spider-Man teaming up, or we'll get it many years down the road. By that time, while Charlie Cox will still be young, Vincent D'Onofrio will be getting quite old. They're both amazing actors, but it just doesn't make sense to not take advantage of whatever contract they currently have signed with the suits. If we don't get this as the next film, then Vincent D'Onofrio may be in his 70s by the time we actually do. Reason number 6, we can still have a live-action Spider-Verse movie, but we need to build up to it first. Spider-Man 4 can be the ground-level movie introducing Miles, Spider-Man 5 can be the symbiote movie picking up from the drop of Venom in No Way Home's mid-credit scene, and Spider-Man 6 can be the Sinister Six movie that Sony has been wishing could happen since the Amazing Spider-Man series got cancelled. They can bring back Tobey, Andrew, have Charlie Cox be Daredevil assisting the Spider-Men, with Kingpin being the 7th final villain, concluding his MCU character arc as the Mad Titan of the street-level storytelling. Basically, we can still have another live-action Spider-Verse, a No Way Home 2.0 if you will, but later, build up to it and have it as the epic conclusion of another trilogy. So that's it, that's pretty much it. I have been wanting to make this YouTube video for a long time, so if you made it all the way through, I really appreciate you listening. Let me know in the comments what you think, and yeah, until next time, holla at your boy.